SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Grammy Museum, Mississippi invites you to visit the Music America, iconic objects from America's music history, supported by Visit Mississippi and the Mississippi Humanities Council. Go to GrammyMuseumMS.org to learn more.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
I didn't know how much I missed that.
Now I'm a man.
Great to be away, to recharge, to spend some time with family, to do a little spring break out in the Rockies. But, man, it was sure good, nice, all of those things to hear that. It means it's the start of a new week. It means it's Monday morning. It means this is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Good morning to you. It's good to be back. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for starting your day. And for many of you, maybe even for most of you in the state of Mississippi, this is the beginning of the week after spring break. If you have school-aged children, that means today marks the beginning of the final 9 weeks. The sprint to summer is on. It means college baseball season is rolling. It means you probably got some work that you need to do in the yard. Lance, Garden Mama, got more to talk about that on Saturday morning. I could probably use some tips. I could use some encouragement, a little inspiration. It means spring is here, and we wish you good morning. It's going to feel like spring across much of the state of Mississippi today. Indianola, you're checking in this afternoon at 70 degrees with abundant sunshine. 67 and sunny in Oxford. Iuka up in the northeast corner of the state, going to be 65 and sunny today. Woodville down in southwest Mississippi, 73 degrees and a whole bunch of sunshine. And that is not a bad way to kick off the week. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, sir.
How are you, brother?
Big time day today, isn't it?
Ooh.
I wasn't
It is a lot.
I was going to do River Dance, but I didn't know if anybody was going to get that reference, so I went with a little bit more traditional Irish jig there. So
This day is St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March, 2025. It's celebrated annually, the anniversary of the death of St. Patrick in the 5th century. The Irish have observed this as a religious holiday for over 1,000 years. We don't have buildings that are 300 years old. Not many of them, anyway.
some in burial mounds, maybe, but yeah.
And they've been celebrating St. Patrick's Day for 1,000 years. It falls during the Christian Lent season. Irish families would traditionally attend church in the morning, and then they would celebrate in the afternoon. Lenten prohibitions against the consumption of meat were waived, and people would dance and drink and feast on the traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage. St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, and its national apostle. He was born in Roman Britain. He was kidnapped and brought to Ireland as a slave at the age of 16, later escaped, but he returned to the country of Ireland and was credited with bringing Christianity to the people there in the centuries following Patrick's death, which was believed to have been March 17th, 493. Not 1493, 493. The mythology surrounding his life became even more ingrained in the Irish culture. Perhaps the most well-known legend of St. Patrick is that he explained the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, using the 3 leaves of a native Irish clover, which we call the shamrock. And then, of course, as Irish immigrants spread out over the United States, St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the United States began to develop their own traditions, including turning the Chicago River green. They started doing this, Lance, in 1962, and the very first time they did it, they released 100 pounds of green vegetable dye into the river. There was a problem, though. It made the river green for an entire week. They have since throttled that dosage back to about 40 pounds of dye, and it just stays green for a few hours. You a big St. Patrick's Day guy?
Well, I mean, I wear my green and support my family, the Irish and Scottish and all that lineage. So, yeah, it's always fun. And you drink a good Guinness, and we'll have to find one of those today. And maybe
you're going to have a Guinness at lunch?
Yeah, well, as soon as I have the opportunity, I will go find me a Guinness. And I looked for my special, beautiful green shirt. I spent 10 minutes looking for my undershirt today, and I'm like, I give up. So I got the green pants on.
There you go.
And some socks that have some green in it. So, yeah, I was celebrated. It kind of always reminds me of that time where everything starts greening up, and it's perfect to celebrate St. Patty's Day at that moment where, if you look up, the trees are starting to bloom, and you got flowers starting to show, the little bitty grass flowers and everything. So, yeah, I enjoy this time of year. But then you dread the 105 degrees and humidity and mosquitoes. So enjoy it while it lasts, I guess, it's kind of that last moment. You go, okay, it's going to be over soon. But man,
the beauty of the seasons.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We didn't have a super cold winter. We had enough cold that
it wasn't that bad, no.
Hopefully it knocked the skeeters back a little bit and maybe knocked the ticks back. Have you had a tick on you yet?
I haven't
this year?
yet, but I guarantee you I will. It's a pastime. So, I keep my dogs pretty covered with their anti-flea and tick and heartworm stuff. But you're going to get one every now and again, especially if you have cats. They just have a tendency to be a little bit more low to the ground, and they get into everything. So yeah, I'll get one from the cat here and there.
The C Spire text line is open to you. The number is 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C Spire Business. Check them out online at cspire.com/business. C Spire, customer inspired. Got some birthdays today. How about the most interesting golfer of all time? Bobby Jones.
Yes, sir.
Amateur golfer who was one of the most influential figures in the history of the sport. He was a lawyer. He was an amateur architect. And he founded and helped design the Augusta National Golf Club, co-founded the Masters Golf Tournament, the most famous golf tournament in the world. The innovations that he introduced at the Masters have been copied by virtually every professional golf tournament in the world. If you ever read about the early days of the Masters, it was nothing like it is today. It was financially hanging on by a thread. It is now one of the most well-oiled money-making operations that has ever existed, and one of the most beautiful places. You can't find a weed on the property at Augusta National Golf Course. Even in the woods, there are no weeds. None.
A little attention to detail. That's some Robert Kayat in them,
Yeah. Maybe that's where Robert Kayat got it all those a year ago. Jones was the most successful amateur golfer ever to compete at a national and international level during his peak, only for about 8 years, 1923 to 1930. He dominated the top-level amateur competition and competed very successfully against some of the world's best professionals, including Walter Hagen and Gene Sarazen. They were the top pros at the time. Jones is most famous for his unique Grand Slam, consisting of his victory in all four major golf tournaments of his era. That was the Open Championship and the Amateur Championships in both the United States and the United Kingdom. Won all four in a single calendar year. That was 1930, and then he hung it up. In all, Jones played in 31 majors, 13 wins, and 27 top tens. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's how you do it right there. If you're going to do it, and then retire early and practice law, raise a family.
Good book I would recommend, by the way. It's Mark Frost wrote Grand Slam, story of Bobby Jones. Incredible story.
Great hairdo too. They split it right down the middle back in those days.
Yeah, he dressed the right way.
Well, y'all said Kurt Russell today. Don't forget, a great actor, 74. Probably remembered more for Tombstone in the more modern era, but don't forget about Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. Police, folks.
Pretty good ones.
Movies. Oh, yeah. And he's been married to
Unforgettable.
Ooh. The dulcet tones of Nat King Cole, born on this day in 1919. Can you imagine if your voice sounded like that when you opened your mouth?
Yeah, you kind of know what you're going to do with your life, right?
I think I'll be a singer.
They start bellowing at 3. You've already got it figured out. My life wasn't like that. Yeah, didn't have that gift of the voice.
What were you saying about marriages?
Oh, no, I was just saying that Kurt Russell's actually one of the few Hollywood folks, and there's a handful, but he's been with Goldie Hawn since 1983.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good run.
Mm-hmm.
Really good run. So 42 years into their 42nd year of marriage?
One of the great interviews, too. If you ever just get bored, get on YouTube and listen to Kurt Russell talk about this, that, and the other. Just shorts. He's hilarious. I mean, absolutely. Great baseball guy, too. Always loved him for that. And his dad, Bing Russell, had the independent team out in Oregon. And, they were great, the Mavericks. And they took on all the big boys in AAA and beat them up pretty good until they got thrown out of the league because they weren't affiliated. And there was a big lawsuit over it. But there's a great documentary on Netflix called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. You got to watch it. It's amazing.
Do you remember the name Katie Ledecky?
Yeah, I don't remember how, though.
She was born in 1997, 9 Olympic gold medals, 21 World Championship gold medals, the most in history for a female swimmer, with 14 medals and 9 gold medals, the most decorated American woman, most decorated female swimmer, the woman with the most gold medals, or at least tied, 5th most decorated athlete in Olympic history. She's the world record holder in the women's 800 and 1500-meter freestyle. Former world record holder in the women's 400-meter freestyle. She also holds the fastest ever time in the women's 500, 1,000, and 1,650-yard freestyle events, widely regarded as the greatest female swimmer of all time and one of the greatest Olympians of all time, Katie Ledecky, born on this day in 1997. We got news headlines coming up next with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venom.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
C-Spark text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Kevin says, nice to hear Batman and Robin back in the Bat Cave this morning. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate that very much. It's good to be back in the Bat Cave.
Well, you were warmed up from yesterday, though, because you got plenty of talking with 14 innings of baseball.
7-inning doubleheader in Starkville yesterday. Was scheduled all along to do the Sunday game of that series with my buddy Ben McDonald. Always fun working with Ben. But because of the weather issues that we had in the state of Mississippi, they postponed Saturday's game, so we got a doubleheader yesterday. A lot of not necessarily the outcome that Bulldogs fans were looking for, but played a couple of games nonetheless, and appreciate all the good folks in Starkville. It was good to be there yesterday. A swath of severe storms and tornadoes killed at least 6 and injured nearly 30, and has triggered a state of emergency declared over the weekend by Governor Tate Reeves. State of emergency allows the state to mobilize state assets to support response and recovery efforts in areas affected by the storms. 21 of the 82 counties were going through damage assessments. My understanding that the governor and some of the team at MEMA will be out touring and observing some of the damage that happened in the state over the weekend. As many as 12 tornadoes have confirmed to have touched down in multiple regions of the state of Mississippi over the course of Friday night and throughout the day on Saturday. Governor Reeves noted in a press conference yesterday that several of the tornadoes were very similar, eerily similar, he said, to Rolling Fork in 2023, the 2020 Easter tornadoes that we dealt with. Most recent tornadoes were long track storms, with the largest on Friday lasting 50 miles on the ground, and the largest on Saturday covering 70 miles. As I mentioned, 21 different counties have reported damage to MEMA. That was as of yesterday morning. And at the peak, about 30,000 Mississippians were without power, though crews have cut that number. By yesterday morning, it was in half, and it has continued to grow. We try to always be mindful and say thank you to the workers with the electric companies, the local electric cooperatives, because in some cases, and I think the governor pointed this out, you have men and women who have damage to their own homes and businesses, and yet they immediately get to work trying to get power restored, trying to make sure that any lines that are down are dead or moved and try to keep you as safe as possible. So our thanks to all of the folks who immediately jumped into action and got the cleanup efforts and the safety efforts going. If you sustained damage during the storm, MEMA is encouraging you to take pictures of the damage, report the damage to your local emergency management agency, and go to the self-report tool on the MEMA website so that you can report the damage in your area, to your property, to your home, and also file an insurance claim as quickly as you possibly can. Need to get that insurance adjuster out there as soon as possible to see that. Lance, it was... I know you guys talked about this some on Friday, getting ready for the weekend, and also on Saturday with the shows that you were on, just trying to make sure people were in good shape. There were parts of the state of Mississippi where the track of the storms, I don't know, what looked like was going to be really bad turned into not so bad, but not everybody was anywhere close to that fortunate as and it wasn't isolated to just one part of the state. It was scattered all over the state of Mississippi. You had Grenada County with serious issues on late Friday night and the overnight hours, and then different parts of the state on Saturday with these storms. Really sad, frustrating stuff.
It is, and not just in Mississippi either. You had one of the more crazy weekends also in the Midwest, Oklahoma, wildfires and many homes destroyed, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and it was a terrible weekend. And, hearts and prayers and thoughts go to everyone. As both my parents worked in the insurance world. My mom, I've been in some crazy places that after devastation, and it's amazing that people even make it through. The pictures that I've seen already, even just from Mississippi and Oklahoma and other places, it's devastating. And, get in touch with the people that you have to as soon as possible for claims and that, because that is not a quick process. It just isn't. And shelter and food and water, so important at this time. And, never hesitate to reach out and ask for help, because that's what your neighbors are there for, and that's what we're all here for. So,
Amanda in Pike County, longtime listener on SuperTalk Mississippi. We appreciate you so much, Amanda. She says, in the space of 3 minutes, life changed for my middle son and his family. The Tylertown tornadoes were catastrophic. Mercifully, they are okay, but they have lost everything. And Amanda, unfortunately, your family is not alone. We are incredibly grateful. We celebrate with you the fact that they are okay, but the process just begins for rebuilding and making sure that they've got a place to stay and businesses and all of those things. Just absolutely devastating images coming out of different parts of the state of Mississippi, and so our hearts go out to all of you. On a national level, the Trump administration, really fascinating story here, has transferred hundreds of immigrants to El Salvador. We've heard about the El Salvadoran prisons and some interesting comments from the president of El Salvador, who says this is not a great expense to the United States, but it is huge for us, and they are moving toward a sustainable prison system in El Salvador as they take on immigrants, dangerous immigrants from the United States. However, a federal judge issued an order temporarily barring the deportations under an 18th century wartime declaration targeting Venezuelan gang members, specifically Tren de Aragua. Flights were already in the air at the time of the ruling. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, probably with some judicial overreach, issued an order Saturday temporarily blocking the deportations, but he was told, sorry, pal, planes are already in the air. One headed for Salvador, the other for Honduras. Boasberg verbally ordered the planes to be turned around. However, that was not part of his actual written order, and so the White House thinks it's got an out there. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said in a statement about whether or not the administration was flouting the orders of the court, she said, quote, "The administration did not refuse to comply with the court order. The order, which had no lawful basis, was issued after terrorist Tren de Aragua aliens had already been removed from United States territory." So we are going to see where this goes. Looks like the government is going to stay open until at least September, as President Trump has signed a law legislation funding the government through the end of September, ending the threat of a partial government shutdown and capping off a struggle in Congress that deeply divided Democrats. The large bill largely keeps government funding at the levels that were set during Joe Biden's presidency. So if you were looking at massive spending cuts, you didn't necessarily get that, but you do get changes to where some of the money is going to be spent. Non-defense spending has been reduced by about $13 billion from the previous year. Defense spending increased by about $6 billion, but those are fairly small changes when you're talking about top-line spending of almost $2 trillion between now and the end of September. The Senate cleared the legislation on Friday, 54-46. 10 members of the Senate Democratic caucus helped the bill advance to passage despite opposition from within their party. And much of that opposition came from the House side of things, who were yelling at their Senate colleagues for voting. Senate Democrats argued for days over whether or not to force a shutdown. They were upset with Republicans in the House for drafting the bill without talking to them about it and getting their input. Democrats said the legislation shortchanges health care, housing, and other priorities, and it gives Trump leeway to redirect federal spending in some ways as he sees fit. In the end, though, enough Democrat senators decided that a government shutdown would be worse for them than letting the funding bill pass. And I think that wording matters. They thought the government shutdown was going to be worse for them. Not so much for the American people, not so much for the workers, but for them in terms of elections. They were afraid that they were going to have a significant image problem because it was abundantly clear that it would have been Democrats who would have been withholding the funding bill, not dreaded Republicans with their fiscal conservatism, although some people would argue that nobody in Congress is actually fiscally conservative. So we will move forward. That's good news, though, for workers who would be affected, and all of us to some degree would be affected by a government shutdown. So we will carry on as we move into the fall. We got to do spring and summer first, but we got government activity through at least the end of September. Those are your news headlines on this Monday morning. We got sports headlines. What a busy sports weekend we have. A new SEC basketball champion, results from baseball in the Magnolia State. The NCAA tournament begins this week. The Magnolia State is heavily representative, and a rare Monday playoff in men's professional golf. All of that coming up. Sports headlines next with you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It's happening. You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
If you are a sportsy kind of person, then this was a great weekend for you because, man, did you have a lot of it. And this, coming up, is one of the most fun weeks of the year. You are 2 weeks away from the start of the Major League Baseball season. You have made it into conference play for college baseball. You've got the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments. You are closing in on the Masters, and it's just a really, really good time of the year. It's an especially good time of year if you win. Now, in fairness, not enough winning happened in the state of Mississippi in baseball over the weekend. It was good for Southern Miss as the Golden Eagles hosted Old Dominion, and they won their series 2-1. You win a series, it was a good weekend. 11-2 in Game 1 on Friday, 11-4 on Saturday, 4-1 they lost in yesterday's game. I've always said, Lance, if you got to lose one of the first two, win that last game so you have a really good feeling kind of going into the start of a new week. That's not the way they did it, but viewed in the aggregate, a good weekend for Southern Miss baseball as they get 2 out of 3 against Old Dominion. They're in good shape in the Sun Belt early on. Less good in Oxford, though so very close to being a really good feeling for the Ole Miss baseball team. They got their weekend started on Friday night, actually Friday afternoon. Beautiful afternoon for baseball. It was 80 degrees, the sun was out, the wind was blowing. And Ole Miss came out swinging against the Arkansas Razorbacks, beat them 10-6 in Game 1. Now, Saturday night, had to push the start time back from 4 to 6 because of weather concerns. Saturday night was no bueno. It blew up for Ole Miss in the middle innings. Arkansas went from trailing to leading and got a big win on Saturday night. And then yesterday, really a entertaining baseball game. Ole Miss was in the lead, 9-8, going into the top of the 8th inning. A little defensive miscue kind of started things, and then Arkansas, down to their final out, got a 3-run home run to take a 12-9 lead. And instead of Ole Miss walking away feeling great about a weekend where they won a series against the number 3 team in the country, they don't feel so good this morning, waking up having blown a lead late in the ball game and losing the series.
You know, one thing about that series, too, is Ole Miss, and this not to be overly critical, but hit 236 on the weekend, gave up 9 earned run average, and fielded it pretty terribly at a 970, and could have won all 3 games. That's one of those, you never know in baseball, but lucky to get one, could have won all 3 of them, though.
Yeah.
Didn't play well.
I think it was yesterday's game where 6 of Arkansas's 12 runs were unearned.
Yeah.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. Also a tough pill to swallow, especially at home, getting swept. That's what happened with Mississippi State this weekend. They had a lead in the 7th inning. They were up 5-3 on Friday, but gave up 5 runs in the top of the 7th inning to Texas to fall behind 8-5. Got a couple of runs back in the bottom of the 9th, but came up a run short in Game 1. They lost Game 1 of a doubleheader yesterday, tied 3-3 going into the top of the 7th inning of a 7-inning game, and gave up a 2-run home run. It was 5-3, and then in the final game of the series yesterday, lost 4-1, as again Texas got a couple of insurance runs in the top of the 7th inning. And the Longhorns, in their first ever Southeastern Conference baseball series, they get a sweep, and maybe Texas looking around going, hey, this isn't so hard. Everybody talks about how hard it is in SEC baseball. We just went on the road to one of the traditional powers in college baseball and got a sweep. It's not easy, Longhorns, but congratulations to you, I suppose, for the weekend win. Really, really good. Good crowd, especially for the first game yesterday in Starkville. Thinned out a little bit for the second game. Brother, the wind never stopped blowing out to right field yesterday. And yet, it didn't have a huge effect on the game.
Right? Wasn't a big impact on it. And State, I thought, could have won all 3 of those games, too. Played better.
No doubt.
Didn't hit the ball overly well, but, they picked it nicely in the field. Had a bad inning or 2, but, they didn't pitch it overly bad either, though. So they could have won all 3 of those games, and that's something that you look forward to if you're Ole Miss and State. A lot of room for improvement, and,
that's true.
Good games that you could have won, and you didn't play great in any of them, really.
That is very glass half full of you.
Well, you kind of have to look at it that way early. I mean, the
season.
Yeah, it's a long. You better not get your feelings hurt too bad this early because it can.
That's right.
Yeah, you start sulking and it doesn't help.
Florida went wire to wire yesterday in the SEC championship game in Nashville. They are playing fantastic basketball. They are the SEC tournament champions after a 9-point victory, 86-77 over Tennessee. Florida had 5 different players in double figures, 22 points for Walter Clayton Jr. Alex Condon had 13. Will Richard had 17. Nice name. Elijah Martin had 10. 11 points for Thomas Hogg off the bench. A good win all the way around for the Florida Gators. They finish the SEC tournament with a record of 30-4, and they are one of the 4 number 1 seeds going into the NCAA tournament. Both Mississippi State and Ole Miss on the men's side of things are in the tournament. Mississippi State will play in an 8-9 game. The Bulldogs will meet Baylor in the opening round game. That is on Thursday, Is that right? Thursday or Friday?
21st, so 11:15 a.m. CBS. Today is 17, so
that's Friday.
Yeah,
Friday morning. So 11:15 tip-off on Friday morning for Mississippi State men's basketball against Baylor in an 8-9 game. The winner of that game will likely meet the number 1 seed in the East, Duke, in a second-round game. Ole Miss, on the other side of the bracket, secured a 6 seed, and the Rebels will have to wait to figure out who their opponent is going to be. They will either play North Carolina or San Diego State. Those were 2 of the final 4 teams that were announced in the field, and so they will play in Dayton on Tuesday night or Wednesday night. I'm not sure which.
21st, yeah.
Well, the game's on the 21st, but the North Carolina
I got you.
a de facto play-in game. So Ole Miss will face either a historic power in the University of North Carolina that has not been as good this year, or San Diego State. Team's been really, really good. Was in a Final Four just a couple of years ago. The winner of the Ole Miss game will play either Iowa State, the 3 seed, or Lipscomb out of Nashville, the 14 seed in the second round of the tournament. So that's on the men's side of things. And then you've also got the women's bracket. Disappointment for the Ole Miss women's basketball team. By all accounts, they should have been hosting a first-round game. They finished with a net ranking of number 11, a really good strength of schedule, but they did not get one of those top 4 seeds, and therefore they will be on the road, headed to Waco, Texas, where they will play Ball State in the 5-12 game. If they beat Ball State, they would likely meet the 4-seed Baylor in the second round of the tournament with a chance to advance to the Sweet 16. Mississippi State's women's basketball team also playing in an 8-9 game. They will play the Cal Bears on Saturday, March 22nd, 4:30 game in the afternoon. If Mississippi State wins that game against Cal, then they will meet up with one of the number 1 seeds, the Southern Cal Trojans.
Yeah, that's a tough draw on both the men and women here, isn't it? I mean, USC on the lady.
In that 8-9 game,
man, that's rough.
You got to get that first win, and then you get, depending on how you look at it, either a massive opportunity or a huge challenge. Maybe
both.
all rolled into one. Get a couple of messages on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Jerry in Corinth said, Jake Mangum had 2 home runs in a game yesterday in spring training for Tampa Bay. Come on, Jake. Ready to see him on a Major League Baseball roster. Yeah, feels like he's earned it.
Did you see the prep kid, Connor Griffin, the other day, the play he made out in center field for the Pirates, 18 years old? And somebody hit a rocket out into the gap, and there's no way anybody's getting to this. All of a sudden, woo, here comes this kid.
Where did he come from?
Out of Jackson, Mississippi, prep. Yeah, the number 1 pick for the Pirates, and just made an unbelievable play. The kid's 18 years old. It's amazing to watch what these guys are capable of doing. And then a guy like Jake Mangum, all he does is hit, and hit. He reminds me of Brad Henderson from back in my era, where you just hit, and hit, just hits everywhere. And that guy can hit. I don't care. I'm like you. I can't wait to see him on a Major League roster with getting significant time. He's always been one of my favorites. Kind of what you say, the old dirtbag type of player.
He
gets it done.
And you know what? The Jake Mangum hits thing is not new. He's been doing that high school, college, minor leagues, and hopefully now in the big league. Somebody says, shout out to the Mississippi State softball team for their series win over Alabama this weekend. That was big time. Congratulations to them. And then finally, a rare Monday finish for the Players. Used to be the Players Championship. They call it the Players now. That's at TPC Sawgrass down in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Rory McIlroy and J.J. Spawn will play a 3-hole aggregate playoff. There was about a 4.5-hour rain delay yesterday in the Masters, and so they were able to finish regulation, if you will, both at 12 under par. They're going to play 3 holes, 16, 17, and 18. And the best score in the aggregate for those 3 holes will win the Players the richest purse in golf at $25 million. You want $25 million? We'll give you a lottery update when we come back.
From the Waking Up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Wrapping up the 6 o'clock hour on Mornings with Richard Cross alongside Lance. I'm Richard. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. I'm guessing that this Monday morning is a little harder to get out the door than some, especially if you've got kids who are coming off a week of spring break, going into that final 9 weeks of the school year, and they're used to sleeping in a little bit more, moving a little bit slower, moving at their own pace, watching cartoons or YouTube videos or whatever it is that they do in the mornings. Got to get back in that routine for a little while longer. Hey, one more sports headline. Did you see what they did in Tampa, Florida over the weekend? They sold out the Buccaneers Stadium, Raymond James Stadium, but not for a football game, not for a soccer match. Lance, it was an exhibition baseball game, not for spring training teams. Over 65,000 people for the Savannah Bananas.
They're a marketing genius, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Like if you want to do something, you market your product, research those guys for a minute, and then start making decisions.
If you have not heard of the Savannah Bananas, it is worth a quick Google search. No question. You don't have to search for this. We're going to tell you what's up with the Mississippi Lottery. We start with Lotto America, where there was no jackpot winner. That one just keeps on climbing. Tonight's drawing, Monday, March 10th, $25.7 million. Cash value there is $12,060,000. The numbers from... I feel like I'm off on my dates here. This is old. I got an old one.
Yeah, let's see what you do.
You know what? I've been out. I messed up. I got the wrong email pulled up. Here we go. I didn't think that was big enough. How about $26.18 million for the jackpot? Estimated cash value $12.29 million. I still don't even think I've got the right one.
Yeah, I think you may be here. You want me to let me send you the real one here real quick.
Here it is.
There it is.
$12.39 million for the drawing tonight.
That's the right one, yeah.
There we go. Saturday's drawing numbers, 16, 39, 41, 44, 51. The star ball was 7. The all-star bonus multiplier was 3. Hey, the good news is at least I didn't tell you it was more than it actually was. I was telling you it was less.
You're underselling.
Powerball, no jackpot winner. There is a drawing tonight. $398 million in the jackpot. The cash value, $185,700,000. Saturday's numbers, 12, 28, 33, 36, 54. The Powerball was 5. The Power Play multiplier was 3.
Well, if you're playing double play, the numbers from the Saturday, March 15th drawing, 35, 36, 47, 50, and 58. Powerball of 11. And Mega Millions, no jackpot winner yet. It is creeping up there, and it's over $300 million now. We'll have a jackpot drawing on Tuesday, March the 18th. That'll round out to about $139 million take-home pay. The numbers from the Friday drawing, 3, 17, 39, 42, and 70. Mega Ball of 1 and a Megaplier multiplier of 3.
So both Powerball and Mega Millions up over $300 million for the jackpot. Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner. Tonight, $656,000. The numbers from Sunday night's drawing, 11, 21, 30, 33, and 35.
Well, the cash $500 Sunday numbers, midday 489, evening 754, cash for $5,000 midday drawing 0614, evening numbers 9908. Fireball was 7 in both the midday and the evening. Cash pop was 15 in the midday and a 4 for the evening.
A lot of people got a little bit richer last week. The Lottery Claims Office paid out just shy of $400,000, while retailers just a hair under $5 million paid out to winners last week. Don't forget about the Pink Panther Diamond Tripler bonus promotion. It's a scratch-off, and it's your shot at a top prize of $100,000. And that's not all. With the lottery's newest bonus promotion, you can enter your non-winning tickets into the Second Chance portal for another shot at $100,000 after the game ends, and the chance to win bonus prizes from $100 gift cards up to $15,000 in cash. The next bonus drawing is happening This week, Thursday, March 20th, you've got until tonight at 11:59 p.m. to enter your non-winning tickets in for that bonus promotions. Go to mslottery.com, click on the bonus promos tab for more information. Few winners to tell you about, including a $5 Pink Panther scratch-off winner. A Shelby woman won $100,000 on a ticket from Double Quick, number 71 in Shelby. Had a Cash 4 winner from Taylorsville, $2,600. That ticket came from George's Discount Tobacco and Beer in Laurel. And on a Colossal Cash winner, a couple of $1,000 winners, that's a $20 scratch-off. Gulfport woman from TCB Stop and Go. That's EAUX Go in Gulfport. A Greenwood woman won $1,000 on a ticket from Lackey Market in Aberdeen. Check out mslottery.com for all of your updates from the Mississippi Lottery. 7 o'clock hour is on the way. What's going on in the Mississippi legislature? Are they going to get a tax deal done? Pretty important week happening. We're back with you, MRC, on Super Talk Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning to you, getting a new week started. Thanks for joining us on Super Talk Mississippi. C-Spire text line is open to you. The number is 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C-Spire Business. Check them out online at cspire.com/business. C-Spire, customer inspired. Alongside Lance Talbert, I'm Richard Cross. We are glad to be with you this morning. Love to hear from you. This hour of the program, this hour of Mornings with Richard Cross, is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call them at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. That's mwgemployerservices.com. Lance, I will share with you a text message that I received. I'm not going to mention who sent it to me. Talking about postseason basketball. Richard, why does the NCAA hate Ole Miss so much? It's obvious, and not just to Ole Miss people, what can be done about this. And North Carolina, now, this message from my friend was, I think as it pertains to the women's NCAA tournament, suggesting that they should be hosting, not a 5 seed on the road. And I honestly, I'm not like jumping off into the politics of women's basketball. I don't know the committee's rationale on that. I don't think there's a very good argument for them not hosting at all, but they're not. And then she pointed out that North Carolina only got in on the men's side because their athletics director is the chairman of the selection committee. She says it's an unfair, rigged system.
That makes
breaking
total
news
sense.
more at 6 when you're talking about the NCAA.
I didn't even know what to say with that. I'm like, oh, is that news?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of frustration. Yolette McPhee-McEwen's done a really good job with the Ole Miss women's program, and they have been building to what should have been a really special moment yesterday for her program, the announcement that they were going to be hosting. I was actually having a conversation over the weekend with somebody wondering what the crowds would be like. I think they would have been really good. Would the pavilion have been completely sold out? I have no idea. But I think you would have had really, really good crowds for those. And it appears as if they were robbed by the NCAA of that. Their home, like if you're looking for a single black mark on their resume, it would be that their home non-conference strength of schedule was pretty putrid. But they made up for it by playing a bunch of really hard neutral site games, and oh, by the way, they played in the SEC. Like there's just not really any rationale that you can point to as to why they were not one of the 4 seeds. But one of the teams that was a 4 seed had metrics that were not nearly as good. But I don't know that we can fix that. C-Spire text line. Good morning, Richard. Welcome back. Thank you. It's good to be back. Really, really good week with family and friends last week. It was, Jane asked me last night, she's like, hey, is it going to take you longer to get ready for tomorrow morning than it normally would? Or, did you kind of keep up? I said, I tried to keep up, but I also just kind of unplugged a little bit last week.
Well, you need to. The news is going to happen, right? You can catch up.
Hey, and I came home all in one piece.
That's even better.
A little sore, perhaps a bit of a bruised ego for not being a better skier than maybe I would like to be, but no braces, no breaks, no strains, no twists, no contusions. So it was all good. Yeah,
you're not going to the orthopedist.
No, I'm not.
Excellent work. Yeah, it's always good after a ski trip.
Although I wouldn't describe it as I took an orthopedist with me, but a good buddy who's an orthopedic surgeon was there at the same time. So that was, I guess, a little comforting.
Yeah, you had a backup plan.
Yeah, just in case. Just in case. Donald Trump late at night may be the best version of Donald Trump or the most entertaining Donald Trump because he is not afraid to fire off a tweet or a post on Truth Social late in the evening, even if it's a Sunday night. This is fascinating. The pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs. I don't even know if I can read it with a straight face.
And he doesn't even drink, so it's not like he's got the wine bottle out late at night.
No. That Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. Why? Because of the autopin, he says. Not a real signature and therefore not valid. He said, in other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, all of those on the Unselect Committee, Benny Thompson included, who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me, and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. That was posted on Truth Social last night at 10:35 Eastern. You can read that and you can laugh. You can. Or you can read it and shake your head and be like, there's a lot of good that you and your office are doing, President Trump. Well, why go down this road? Now, I'm not talking about the substance so much of the post. Did the select committee for the January 6th hearings overreach? Yeah. Is there an excuse for having destroyed evidence? Nope. Not at all. Is there a reason they destroyed evidence? Probably so. But as Lance pointed out, the president does not imbibe in alcohol. But does what looks like a drunk late-night post that is full of name-calling and derision serve any purpose other than ha, ha, ha? I don't know. Or maybe Donald Trump has just done so much of this over the last decade. I mean, can you imagine if Barack Obama had posted something like that? If George W. Bush, if Ronald Reagan had posted something like that, it would be like, what? He was hacked. Presidents don't talk this way, but Donald Trump does.
That's what scares a lot of the establishment, too, right? You know, is he's not traditional, and you really have no idea what's coming next.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say thank you to Scott Sands for filling in last week. I appreciate him being here. It's my understanding that there are some things he said that perhaps raised some of your dander a bit. That's okay.
Wait until Friday, though. You know.
Hey, we'll skip on the statue conversation this morning if it's all the same to you. So what are they doing in the Mississippi legislature this week? Got a big deadline coming up this week, the 18th. Tomorrow is a deadline day. We're going to talk with JT Mitchell more about what that means, but we are nearing the end of this session, end of this month, and legislators will go home. You remember this is year 2 of a 4-year cycle for the legislature. Year 1 is 4 months. Years 2, 3, and 4 are 3 months. So we're nearing the end of this session. And man, what a roller coaster the tax conversation has been. You get House Bill 1. You spend 6 weeks wondering where the Senate's bill is. You finally get the Senate bill. It's not anywhere close to what the House wanted to do. We feel like we're at an impasse. Then we get word a week and a half ago they are really, really close. And then last week we get word that nope, fell apart. And now we are almost to the finish line. Will they get anything done? We'll talk more about this in the 8 o'clock hour. Going to talk some outdoors and the Outdoor Stewardship Fund coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center, I'm Patty Steele. Venable Glass with 2 locations in Ridgeland and Brandon. Locally owned and operated with free mobile service for you in the Tri-County area. Traffic is moving smoothly. We are all clear with no accidents, no major congestion. Trust your heavy haul transportation needs to Southeastern Services. Years of experience hauling and operating heavy equipment. You can trust their team to handle your jobs with confidence. Call Southeastern Services, 601-292-9932.
Ready for a brighter smile? Dr. Michael Carter at Old Town Dental is offering an exclusive deal on the Glow Teeth Whitening System for a limited time. The first 5 callers get $200 off their in-office teeth whitening session. You deserve a smile that shines. So why wait? Call 769-567-1000 now and ask for Dr. Michael Carter to schedule your appointment or find him on Facebook at Dr. Michael Carter DMD. Don't miss out on this amazing offer. Your best smile is just a call away.
Coleman Taylor Transmission, servicing Central Mississippi for over 60 years. Their ASE certified technicians offer dependable transmission services, a warranty, and wrecker services. Call Coleman Taylor today for all your transmission needs.
Get that yard cleaned up with help from Bad Boy Products from Woods Equipment, the lawnmower store. Woods Equipment is a Bad Boy diamond dealer and are the largest Bad Boy dealer in Central Mississippi. Check out all the Bad Boys like zero-turn mowers, tractors, UTVs, and more at Woods Equipment's new larger location at 5023 Highway 80 in Pearl. You can get 0% interest and payments as low as $84.68 per month. Check them out at woodsequipmentinc.com or, as Mr. Alvin says, come on down and let's make a deal.
Hey Mississippi, Taylor with the Skills Foundation here. I've traveled all over the state meeting high school seniors eager to start their careers, and I'm pleased to tell them that Mississippi is on a roll. Our state is attracting investments like never before in industries like manufacturing, construction, energy, and IT. Right now, there's serious demand for skilled workers, meaning companies are offering higher wages than ever. And that's why we created Skills That Pay. It's all about getting more Mississippians into great careers, jobs with excellent pay and long-term benefits. And here's the best part. We're also giving out signing bonuses to help cover the cost of training essentials. With the right training, you can get Skills That Pay and start out making over $50,000 a year. Many programs can be completed in less than a year. That means that students can make money faster and avoid debt. Get Skills That Pay and take your next step towards a great career. Visit skillsthatpay.ms to learn more. Paid for by the Skills Foundation of Mississippi.
The best made-to-order lunch in Northeast Jackson is at 4th and Gold Sports Cafe. The wings, the chicken tenders and bites, fried or grilled, and the best specialty pizzas in the metro. Call 769-208-8283. That's 769-208-8283. 769-208-8283.
Where Mississippi comes to talk. Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Weekdays here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
She traveled all around, all across this country. Met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. She got the feeling of a small plane running through blood.
Good to be with you this morning. C-Spire text line is open. Grab a couple of your messages quickly before we go to our first guest on this Monday morning, 601-879-4395. A couple of versions of this message from Mike in Gulfport and a couple of other people saying that no presidents prior to Donald Trump have not spoken or posted the way that he does, but no other president has been treated the way he does or has. I understand that. And I'm not arguing to the contrary. Mike in Madison says subsequent presidents do not have the constitutional authority to rescind prior presidents' pardons. That declaration wouldn't hold up in court. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, generally. But if the pardons that were issued were unlawful and the proper process was not followed to issue those pardons, then I think you've got a little bit different conversation. And somebody saying, yes, the auto pen scandal of Biden is worth pursuing. I think it'd be really hard to prove. I mean, Joe Biden is not the first president or the first CEO to use an auto pen for his signature. That happens in a lot of places and a lot of cases. But he's still got to give approval for the use of the auto pen. And I think it would be really hard to prove that he was not approving those things that were being signed via the auto pen instead of his own hand. Anyway, we can come back to that. Again, C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Right now, though, Ricky Flynt joins us this morning. We appreciate Ricky coming in to chat a little bit about the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Fund and the trust fund that was set up by the legislature via law in 2022. And, Ricky, appreciate you coming in. We should say we were expecting to visit with Representative Bill Kincaid this morning as well. He represents District 52. I think some of his property was affected by some of the storm damage from through the weekend. And so to Bill and all of the others who were affected by those storms this weekend, we offer our condolences for those who lost life and just absolutely thinking about everybody who was affected by those storms. Good morning, Ricky.
Good morning. Yeah, sorry Bill couldn't be here.
Absolutely.
Got some messaging going with him this morning, and I said, look, I can handle this. You take care of business there, and we'll represent the outdoor stewardship responsibly.
Is he making sure that he's got the bottle of bar oil and the right mix of gas and oil to go in that chainsaw as he fires it up this morning?
I hope so. I'd hate for him to burn one up.
Yeah, that's no good.
I bet he's got some experience with a chainsaw.
Certainly would think so. Let's rewind 3 years to when the Outdoor Stewardship Fund was put in place by the legislature, and what that meant for the outdoors in Mississippi.
Well, this was an effort that took about 4 or 5 years of brainstorming and thinking through, and It started as an effort to try and bolster some revenue for outdoor projects within the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And it became a statewide program that would be available to all state agencies, to all municipalities within the state, and even non-government organizations to enhance wildlife and fisheries conservation projects, to enhance and develop outdoor recreation, nature-based outdoor recreation for municipalities, cities, and communities. And it became something much better, much bigger, with a bigger footprint than what was originally thought of. And it took a few years of running it through the legislature to get everybody to an agree of how it was going to look. And honestly, it's working very well. And we have just recently gone through our third cycle of funding of projects to give you a real tight picture of what we're doing. Is state agencies, municipalities, that's county and city governments, as well as non-government organizations, can submit applications for these types of projects, wildlife and fisheries conservation, outdoor recreation, to the Outdoor Stewardship Board of Trustees. Okay. And then the Board of Trustees scores all these projects. I rank them and present them to the board to determine what kind of funding awards are available based on the funding that's available. And right now...
Let me interrupt just for a second.
Ahead.
In terms of the funding itself, that is allocated by the legislature, right?
Straight from the legislature, yes.
And is that a recurring model? Is that something that is guaranteed in perpetuity, or is that something that the legislature can adjust on a year-by-year basis?
Yeah, it's not guaranteed. Right now, we're year to year, session to session, depending on the legislature to appropriate funding. There have been a couple of different bills presented. One of them always deals with getting a continued appropriation straight from the legislature. And then another is seeking to get a dedicated funding source through a possible diversion of some tax revenue from the sale of sporting goods, certain categories of sporting goods that would be tapped or limited to $20 million a year. So far, that legislation has not been able to get agreed upon. We have been successful in getting 3 successful years of appropriation money. In 2022, there was $10 million. In 2023, they appropriated $15 million. And then last year, in 2024, we got $12 million. Okay. So, and it's adequate. What we're seeing, though, is that there is a demand amongst the state agencies and municipalities to do this type of work, more demand than what we have funds for.
So the way you outlined it, there are a lot of different entities that are eligible to seek money. We know one of the things that Mississippi has going for it is great recreational bodies of water.
Yes.
The lakes, especially in the northern part of the state. I mean, I live in the Oxford area. Sardis is outstanding. You got Enid not too far away, and Arkabutla, Grenada Lake. Those are managed by the Corps of Engineers. Is that different, or could those particular entities, say if there was a new boat ramp that was needed for one of those Corps of Engineer lakes, are they eligible for funding?
They could go through one of the non-government organizations and be eligible. We do have the opportunity for doing work on federal lands. In fact, any type of public land that a project can bolster, enhance access, or increase conservation work on those public lands, we can do that. We have some emphasis and priority on public waterways. So we're hopeful, and we're doing a number of projects that already do that, providing boating access to a number of rivers and lakes, reservoirs, and things like that.
So the most recent allocations were just released, right? Well, wasn't it last week or so, or the last little bit that we have seen the most recent projects that are going to be funded?
Yeah, we just announced with our last board meeting in February 28 conservation projects that were awarded by the Board of Trustees. It's $13.4 million of state funds that is being added with $25.3 million of outside funds, such as federal matches, some state matches, in-kind, and things like that, to combine with a total of $38.7 million worth of projects. So we've turned $13.4 million of state funds into $38.7 million worth.
Right,
and it's going on all across the state.
That is certainly significant. I'm curious with the way this is set up, because I hear trust and it makes me think, okay, well, maybe there's some different rules. Is there a mandate for the stewardship fund to spend all of the money that is allocated in a given year, or is there thought to using this money to create some sort of an endowment that gives the stewardship trust fund the ability to do these programs in perpetuity, even if ongoing funding doesn't exist from the legislature?
I think as of right now, the board is centered on, with the demand that's out there, the number of projects and the quality of them, we're trying to utilize every dollar we can as every year goes through, because there's so many good projects out there. We're just trying to get those done.
Very good. Very good. We're going to continue our conversation with Ricky Flynt. He's the project manager and the executive director of the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Fund Trust. We'll talk about what some of these specific projects are that are being funded this year. To my buddy Ryan, who has a little man with a birthday this morning. Max, happy birthday. Know you have been celebrating this weekend, and hope you have a wonderful day on this St. Patrick's Day. More with Ricky Flynt coming up. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk. From the scene of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you on this Monday morning across the Magnolia State. A sunshiny day. Hope you have a chance to get outside. I even hope my friend Ricky Flynt has a chance to get outside today and not just be stuck behind a desk in the office. It's going to be 70 and sunny all across the state of Mississippi. And Ricky, we have gotten to that time of year where people so badly want to be outdoors. They're ready for spring. Everything's starting to bloom. There's work to be done in the yard. By the way, am I eligible to request a grant to help with some yard work at my house? Is that public land enough?
That might be a stretch for us, but we could probably find a few volunteers to come help you.
There we go. I got some azaleas that need to be planted. I got some pine straw that needs to be spread. You know, just pretty basic stuff.
I put out 26 bales myself last weekend.
There you go. I have hired people to do that in the past, and then I saw the bill for it, and I'm like, I think this is something I probably can handle. I think I need to go buy the pine straw and spread it myself. So let's talk about some of these projects that are being funded this year. Technical question first. In terms of the funding, let's just say you approve a project. We'll use a nice round number for $1 million. That is in, Grenada County. How quickly are those funds dispersed, and how quickly does the project itself actually begin?
Good question. So we operate as a reimbursement program. The entity must have the wherewithal to be able to handle those expenses. We reimburse them. We turn that around very quickly. Once they submit all their required documents, we get their money back to them within 5 to 10 days after the board approves it. Now, The project itself, from the day we issued the notice to proceed document, they have 2 years to complete the project. We have not completed our first round. Our first round of projects that came through the 2022 appropriations, those projects will expire in October this year. So we have a lot of projects that will be being completed here in the next 7-8 months.
So the money that is allocated to the trust, does it just sit in a bank account until it is fully dispersed?
That's right. It does, and any monies that have not been expended just rotate over. But like I said in the last segment, our board is utilizing almost every dollar of every available appropriation every year.
All right, so what about the projects that were approved for this most recent cycle?
Yeah, so let me just give you a quick overview of just the impacts of the types of projects we're doing. We have, with these 28 projects we just added, we'll have 80 active projects going across the state. Okay. 21 of those are walking, biking, or nature type trails, 19 municipal recreational park improvements, 11 kayak canoe launch areas, 10 public boat ramps, 10 water quality and erosion control improvements, 9 education and outreach projects, which includes one we just funded at MSU with the MSU Deer Lab, an internationally recognized whitetail deer research facility. We're glad to be able to fund that one. 8 wetland waterfowl enhancement projects, 8 forest wildlife habitat improvement projects, 6 fishing piers, private landowner management assistance programs, 5 of those. We even do critical wildlife and habitat protection, 4 projects there. And we're also doing a number of projects that benefit permanently disabled and special needs children across the state. 2 shooting range improvements, just to name a few, and 1 big artificial fishing reef down in Bay St. Louis. But I'm going to run over one of the biggest ones this year is we awarded a $1.5 million. Okay. But there is $6 million in federal project match coming into this project. It's called the Protecting Riverine Habitat, Military Readiness, and Improving Recreation on Lands and Waters of Mississippi. This is through a project that will allow Wildlife Mississippi to leverage that $6 million in federal and private funds. It will... let's see if I can just go through here real quick.
I was going to say, let's do that in English.
Yeah. Wildlife Mississippi will utilize grant funding to secure conservation easements on almost 400 acres along the Buttahatchee River in Lowndes County, provide buffers against incompatible development adjacent to Columbus Air Force Base, a conservation easement of 265 acres, and implement trail and access to the Old Cove Natural Area in Webster County, as well as additional trails and boardwalks to the 3,000-acre Fanny Cook Natural Area here in Flowood, Rankin County. That's just one example. We're doing waterfowl enhancement work on Panther Swamp National Wildlife Refuge, Howard Miller WMA in the Delta. We're working to reconstruct and enhance those water control structures and habitats on those areas. That's just to name a few. We're putting in a bridge at Yakanookanie Wildlife Management Area. About half of the acreage at Yakanookanie Wildlife Management Area is inaccessible because there's no bridge to get across to the other side. Okay. It's a simple project, $56,000, with another $150,000 in match coming to that.
Do you find... so many questions. Do you find so rich with natural resources and so many outdoor areas? But you just used the example a second ago. Okay, you can't get to half of the place because the bridge is out or there's not a bridge there. Mm-hmm. Do you find that a lot of our parks, public lands, are in disrepair because they simply don't have the funds they need to maintain? I mean, you talk to a private landowner, and they'll be quick to tell you it's one thing to own land; it's another to have the ability to maintain the land. I mean,
absolutely,
like, owning the land is just the beginning.
I know, state and federal resources are, struggling, And it's nice to have a fund like this that an entity, an agency can say, we've got this one particular need that is a priority to our mission, and we don't have the resources to do it completely. But if we could get some assistance, we can apply federal monies that will match and be appropriate to this to be able to get it done. That without this source of funding through the state, it never gets done. Yeah. And so that's what's occurring in a lot of these areas. We have I'm trying to think of that. There's a Arboretum Trail that we are funding this year that, they have private entity resources. They're very limited, but because they have this non-government organization that can get together and organize something for a grant like this and pull together some additional resources, we're able to get it done.
What percentage of the requests is the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund able to fulfill?
It's about 30%.
Okay.
Are
many of those fulfilled in full? I mean, like if I come to you with a project that's asking for $100,000, is there a chance that you're going to say, hey, we don't have $100,000 to throw at this, but we're willing to allocate $30,000 if you can come up with the other 70?
So far, what we've done is 100% funding of the ask, because it becomes a problem, particularly with matching funds, that if they may have presented a project for a federal match, and if they can't get 100% funding for it, then it messes up their match. So far what we've done is 100% funding for those projects. And our projects have ranged anywhere from just $8,700 to complete a project for our input to $2.6 million. So it's a wide range of projects. But, the outdoor recreation industry is about $8 billion to the state of Mississippi in revenue. That's very important. It creates almost 80,000 jobs in the state. This is not something that is just recreation. It is revenue for the state. It is important to many communities. It's important to individuals. Not everybody is a hunter or a fisherman, but nearly everybody utilizes some type of outdoor recreation in part of their life, if not weekly, monthly, but annually. And it's very important to them. And if you find out that you take those types of resources and opportunities away from them, it's very detrimental to their life. Yeah. And it is important, and we hope that this funding will continue.
You got time to hang just for a couple more minutes?
Sure.
I want to talk to you about not so much collaboration with neighboring states, but sharing ideas. There's some interesting things that are happening specifically in Arkansas. The governor's husband, the first gentleman of Arkansas, has been involved in some outdoor stuff. Now, there also is a thing in Arkansas called the Walton family.
Yeah.
That is doing some pretty significant funding of making sure that their outdoors in that state are sustainable. Let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Ricky Flynt, project manager, supervisor, executive director of the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, joining us on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Quick time out. We are back with you right after this.
I'm on a runaway train. I got to bust loose from this ball and chain. I'm a hard working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I was a dam builder across the river deep and wide. We're
visiting with Ricky Flynt, talking Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund this morning. The recent allocations of a bunch of projects. Ricky outlined some of those just a couple of minutes ago. Let me give you a question that came in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Brian and JS said, I'm all for public lands projects, but is there anything available for private landowners?
It's a good question. So there is availability for these funds to be used on private lands. The catch is there has to be a proven public benefit. Okay. I'll give you an example. Some of our projects that are doing that. For instance, on some of our public lands, there are issues with invasive species, whether it's grasses or trees and things like this, that if you're doing management on these public lands to reduce these invasive trees and grasses and things that occur there, if you do not expand that control work beyond the boundaries of those public lands and go on to some of those private lands, you kind of are just spinning your wheels. And so there is an opportunity, for example, to do that type of work on public land and then extend it some distance away on the private lands that surround those public lands and be able to do a benefit not only to the private landowner who gets a benefit from that, some assistance, but it improves the ability to manage that problem on the public land as well.
No different than the idea of if you spray for mosquitoes in your yard, but none of your neighbors spray for mosquitoes, the spray that you did, it's just like, well, I'm not going to use that example.
You got it.
It doesn't really have much of an effect.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep, that's a good example.
Makes sense. So if allocations for private land, if they serve the greater good of public land that is adjacent,
right,
is the best way to describe it.
That's probably the best example. We've got phone calls, hey, I want to put in a duck hole on my property.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it benefits ducks to some degree, but our funding is not going to be something.
Sure,
you're not going to be able to justify that as a public benefit.
When you're working in projects and grant allocation, I'm curious about best practices and the way you look at neighboring states. Mississippi, we know, is a unique state, but some of the surrounding states share characteristics. They share a love for the outdoors in terms of the type of people. In some cases, they share similar topography or recreational opportunities. I mentioned Arkansas specifically. How much collaborating are you doing with leadership in neighboring states and looking at the way that maybe they are sustaining their great outdoors properties, public lands, et cetera, to make sure that we're doing this the best way we can in Mississippi?
It is absolutely critical. In the wildlife management, forest management profession, if you are not collaborating with your colleagues in other states and looking at what they've done, how did it work, what were their successes, what were the failures, you learn from others. It's just like any other industry. And so there are multiple professional meetings that go on every year in the southeastern United States. In fact, the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks will be hosting the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies meeting this October down in Biloxi. And so there will be professionals, in the wildlife, forestry industry, collaborating all at one place to share that information. And it's, peer-reviewed scientific work. And so, yes, for us to go and get that knowledge from other states and see what they're doing, other government organizations and non-government organizations. It's not just government type stuff.
Is there anything specific that you've seen in, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, where there was a program in place or a specific thing that they were doing? You're like, you know what, that really would work here. Let's try and get that done.
I can't think of any specifically, but I do know that, in different...
Or vice versa.
Yeah. That's right. So it can show you the successes. It can also show you, cases where the scientific community believed that this is something that you did to benefit this. And research was done, and they said, you know what? It really wasn't a significant benefit. And we found that if you do this, it is significant. And so that's the benefit of scientific research. A lot of people kind of turn their nose to research. They think that's a waste of money, but it really is not. It can allow you to go in there and prove that providing funding to this type of activity is a waste, or providing this type of funding brings about a huge benefit, and it really does do what you want it to do.
Final thing, we only got like 20 seconds to the break. Are you concerned when you hear about tax reform and reduced revenue in the state about sustainability for this Stewardship Trust Fund?
I think tax reform is affecting everything in this state. It doesn't matter what it is, and we know that the heads have got to get together and come to an agreement so that everybody can figure out what we're going to do.
Thanks, Ricky.
Your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the 8 o'clock hour of Mornings with Richard Cross. It is my pleasure to be back with you on this Monday morning. We started bright and early at 6 a.m., and we are rolling into the start of the workday, the start of the school day for many of you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making us part of the start of your day. Would love for you to be a part of the conversation, even if you are a constitutional policy wonk like Mike, who wants to cite sections of the Constitution and have an ongoing debate. Lance is more than happy to engage in debate with you on the C Spire text line. You'll forgive me for this. I love telling you about my friends at C Spire. CSpire.com is the website. Their slogan is customer inspired, and that can mean so many different things to different people. Like what do you need from your C Spire? For me, for our family, it's a comprehensive solution. My wife owns a business. She's got C Spire Internet and some of their IT services that are associated with her business. I know they're not paying me to say that specifically. I'm just telling you the way that we use C Spire. Fiber to the home times 2 at my house. 2 different C Spire fiber to the home, fiber wires coming in. Is that overkill? Probably. Do you need 2? Probably not. But there's a little bit of, I guess technically it's not redundancy, but like this radio program, it's like I don't want to worry about anything getting in the way of this working the way it's supposed to. So I've got a fiber line that comes into my office, and then we've got a fiber line that comes into the house, and wireless internet throughout the house and outside, and it's good for speakers and streaming and computer usage and everything else. And then there's C Spire phones. I travel a lot, and my friends in the afternoon, Brian Haydad and Michael Borky, love to poke fun at me about that. And it's all in good humor, I think. At least for the most part it is. But because I travel a lot, I've been a lot of different places. Some of them are big cities, some of them are small towns, and then kind of everything in between. And it's been low-lying areas and mountainous areas and on the coast and in middle America. Everywhere I go, nationwide 5G goes with me. My most recent experience is a FaceTime call for my kids with their grandparents on a ski lift at 11,000 feet above sea level. Flawless. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works. I kind of feel like it shouldn't work, but it did perfectly. Take C Spire with you wherever you go, whether it's at home or on the road. C Spire is customer inspired. Check them out online at cspire.com. cspire.com. Speaking of C Spire, tomorrow afternoon, Sports Talk Mississippi will be on the road at Trustmark Park in Pearl getting set for a matchup between Southern Miss and Ole Miss in baseball. That top 25 matchup and Sports Talk Mississippi brought to you by C Spire. Look forward to being with you tomorrow afternoon, being with the boys tomorrow afternoon there in Pearl, Mississippi for round 2 between Southern Miss and Ole Miss happening at Trustmark Park. Also on Wednesday, middays with Gerard Gibbert. We'll be at the Westin downtown Jackson for the Madison County Business League and Foundation's 17th annual Legislature Luncheon. You will hear from political and business leaders from across the state as they talk about the most important issues impacting our state. That's on Wednesday, middays with Gerard Gibbert.
I'm trying to get Gerard to bring the mustache back for March. I know he could pull it off, Mustache March. And maybe he'll have to wait till next year, but it has been a lobbying effort of mine, just so you know.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah, it looks good. And he had his Journey. If he'd had that with his Journey shirt on from Friday, oh, come on.
Have you seen the jacket? Like the bomber jacket?
I don't think so.
I was looking at something on Facebook the other day. I was flipping through some pictures, and I think it was a Journey, like, full-on, like, bomber jacket. You'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask him about
I would
that
vote
one,
against the mustache. I thought the shaving of the mustache was a significant upgrade.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking of a month, just not the whole year.
It better be to raising money for a good cause and not just because somebody says it's mustache month.
Mm-hmm. That would have been me that made that recommendation. Yeah, so it's falling on deaf ears on Cross Force One. Yes. Hey, how did you get C Spire Fiber on Cross Force One? Is there like a cord that you roll out as you fly?
It's
or is that
really long cord.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm.
Well,
no.
Hey, yeah.
There was no private air travel, I assure you. But I will say that our airport experience, our very public airport experience, was about as smooth as it could go, going and coming. So I am thankful for that. All right, what's the legislature doing? What are they doing?
Arguing and bickering.
House and Senate negotiations over proposals to drastically overhaul Mississippi's tax code appear to be at an impasse, a standstill. They're at a four-way stop, and nobody can figure out whose turn it'll go, and nobody will press the gas and just start the process and get out of the intersection. Just a couple of weeks left in this session. Lawmakers are pushing different proposals behind the scenes to see if Mississippi can pull off an experiment that no other state has accomplished. And that's eliminating the income tax after having it on the books for more than 100 years. Jason White last week said that negotiations appeared to have stalled. All right, Lance, you're going to have to help me out here, and JT can when he comes in a little bit earlier. I was trying to keep up with this. So a week ago Friday, or a week ago Thursday, Speaker White was on with Gerard, and I think it was a week ago Friday, I thought he sounded more optimistic than at any point in this entire process. There's been a lot of back and forth. Well, we should cut it all the way. We're only going to cut it partially, or it should be an excise tax, or it should be a sales tax on fuel, or you got to fund PERS or not. Like, there are significant and reasonable disagreements between the Senate bill and the House bill. And I reached out to Speaker White and I said, I feel like I hear more optimism in your voice in this conversation that you're having with Gerard than I've heard at any point during this session. And he and others indicated that it felt like they were really, really close. Really close. And that had all happened pretty fast. Like, they had gotten to a point where there was a lot there. And then last week, as I understand it, the House side of things added some stuff to the bill that caused the Senate to go, what are we doing here? And it had to do with gaming, right? With online sports betting? That was pushed back into it's one of my great frustrations when I look, and it's not necessarily at the state level. I mean, it happens all the time, way more at the federal level than at the state level, is you've got a piece of legislation, and the legislation is focused on, let's just say it's focused on funding the building of a dog and cat pen at Lance's house.
Yay.
Like, that's what this money is appropriated for. We've debated it. We've decided it makes sense. We've decided that this is an expenditure that we're going to allocate the funds for. We're going to put the legislation in place. There's going to be an ongoing fund there for maintenance of the dog and cat pen at Lance's house going forward. And then we almost are to the point where we vote on it to the finish line, but both sides have got to agree on it. And then one side says, yes, but we also need to update the kitchen. We got to put new appliances in the kitchen, and if new appliances in the kitchen are not part of this bill to build a cat and dog fence in Lance's yard, then I'm not voting for it.
It's amazing to me.
And you step back and you're like, hold on, this is not about a kitchen remodel. This is about getting the yard right.
Well, it's funny and also disturbing that the House and Senate both represent the same constituency but can be so far apart from the people's will that they continue to fight out things that I think the people of this state have already agreed we want.
Here's the bottom line on this. And I don't care if you're pro Jason White or pro Delbert Hoseman or whatever. The majority of Mississippians want the income tax to be eliminated.
That's right.
And the majority of Mississippians that want to eliminate the income tax are going to vote. And if you don't figure out a way to get the income tax eliminated and you're an elected official in Mississippi, there's a good chance that you are going to be held liable for that the next time your name is on the ballot. And if you're standing in the way, that could be a problem for re-election.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center, I'm Patty Steele. Venable Glass in Richland on 51 North and Brandon at 209 Woodgate Drive, Cross Gates. Call 601-605-4443 for all of your glass needs. Traffic still moving along smoothly. We are all clear with no accidents or major congestion. Traffic is brought to you by River Trust Federal Credit Union. Call today and take advantage of their limited time share certificate special, a 4.22% annual percentage yield on 30 and 60 months. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Get that yard cleaned up with help from Bad Boy Products from Woods Equipment, the lawnmower store. Woods Equipment is a Bad Boy diamond dealer and are the largest Bad Boy dealer in Central Mississippi. Check out all the Bad Boys like zero-turn mowers, tractors, UTVs, and more at Woods Equipment's new larger location at 5023 Highway 80 in Pearl. You can get 0% interest and payments as low as $84.68 per month. Check them out at woodsequipmentinc.com or, as Mr. Alvin says, come on down and let's make a deal.
The one body shop that's always believed in using OEM parts and repairing vehicles to their original factory condition is Clinton Body Shop. Auto accidents are stressful, and the last thing you need is a repair that devalues your car and makes it unsafe. In a time when more than ever insurers are pushing consumers to body shops that work for them and not you, we want to remind you Clinton Body Shop believes you deserve to have your vehicle returned to its pre-accident condition. That's why we use OEM parts and OEM repair procedures. In fact, we're trained and certified by more automakers than any body shop in Mississippi. So remember, it's your right to choose where to get your repair. So choose Clinton Body Shop in Clinton or Richland. As our founder always said, we really do take pride in perfection. Go to ClintonBodyShop.com.
$7 billion reinvested, thousands of new jobs, all happening on a main street near you. For over 40 years, the Mississippi Main Street Association has helped historic downtown districts across the state to revitalize. We spur economic development in the hearts of our communities, helping small businesses and driving quality of life projects that make our cities and towns better. Thank you to our state legislators, investors, and members who know that community revitalization happens on Main Street. Learn more at msmainstreet.com. That's msmainstreet.com.
At Fillmore Buick GMC, we strive to make buying your next vehicle easy and take care of you long after you drive off the lot. That means upfront and honest pricing, doing everything we can to make the time you spend in the dealership as short or as long as you need. It means we understand that purchasing a vehicle is more than just a transaction for you. We want you to enjoy the experience as much as we appreciate your business. Find your next Buick GMC or pre-owned vehicle at FillmoreBuickGMC.com. Fillmore Buick GMC. You drive everything we do.
No talking points and no spin. Just the truth as we cover the news. That's what you get with me. It's Eric Erickson, weeknights starting at 9 p.m. right here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up. Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And I'm tired of taking blame when I ain't done nothing wrong. I'm tired of other people trying to take what's mine. And I'm tired of y'all playing dress up and trying to sing them old country songs.
Thanks for being with us this morning, friends. Across the Magnolia State, it is great to be with you. If you're just joining us, I said this earlier. I really enjoyed a little time off. It was great to be with family, great to be with friends, great to see a different part of the country, but it is also absolutely fantastic to be back behind this microphone with you as we launch a new week. Today is March 17th. It is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, you're supposed to wear green. Tough day when colorblind is kind of in the offing for you. I really thought this jacket had a little green in it, and I walked inside in a break a little earlier this morning, and my 7-year-old daughter immediately pinched me. She's like, "You were supposed to wear green, Daddy." Yeah, I was. I thought I did, sweetheart. Surely it's the thought that counts.
We were taking bets on whether you bought one or two jackets while you were gone. So how many came back?
No jackets.
None. Oh, come on.
No.
You're supposed to wear green on St. Patty's Day, you sheep shearer.
Well, maybe I'll go put a green golf shirt on before we hook up with JT at the end of the segment. Let's see here.
Oh, you've been banned from covering any more MSU baseball games, just so you know, so, from one of our listeners.
You know, how the turntables. Because not too long ago, Mississippi State never loses a game when Richard's on the call, and then they've lost a couple of games, and now I'm out. Richard and Lance, as you interview senators and representatives on your show, most seem competent and actually use common sense, but once they reach the Capitol, I don't know what happens. Seems like they lose the essence of what's best for the state. Is it special interest or pressure from those within their own party? I guess that's why they call them politicians.
Probably drinking the water or something.
Yeah, but let's be careful painting with that broad brush.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that characterization is entirely fair. Now, your question, is it special interest? In some cases, you darn sure better believe it. There are certain things that get pushed or are even currently being pushed to the point of sticking it in a slingshot and pulling it back until that slingshot is about to break and shoving it down your throat based on special interest. That's happening right now in this session as we speak. And it happens every year. But that is also how the game is played. So I want to read this message, and I want to respond to it, because I think there's a solution here. The economy, this is on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. The economy is heading toward a possible recession. The stock market is crashing and destroying our state retirement plan. The feds are cutting the funding we depend on to fund our state, and we just got a $100 billion bill from the feds because of the DHS scandal. So, yeah, maybe it's not a good time to reduce our state tax income. Parts of what you say I agree with, and parts of what you say I have a fundamental disagreement with. Is the economy heading toward a recession? Or is that what parts of the legacy media want you to believe? Because there's some key economic indicators that actually show the opposite of what you're saying. Inflation is down significantly. I don't know when the price of eggs became a key economic indicator, but for many it appears to be. The price of eggs is falling. The price of gas is falling. Interest rates are down for 6 straight weeks, I think it is, mortgage interest rates, which should help the home market. The buying and selling of homes in the United States should help. Stock market is crashing, destroying our state retirement plan. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. See, this is the problem that we have when we look at the stock market in the micro. Do you remember 2007? Now, two sides of the coin here. If you are planning to retire in the next year or two, I understand the concern. 8% lost last week? That's significant. The stock market is still in all-time record high range. It is over 40,000. That's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, 41,000 and change right now. So, if you are planning to retire next week, or next month, or next year, I understand the angst. I understand the concern with seeing all of the red on the board. But do you remember in 2007 when you had all the angst and all the concern, if you're not just immediately about to retire, all the gnashing of teeth as the market was collapsing and we were going into a recession and we were going into a depression and the banks were collapsing and too big to fail and Fannie and Freddie and Lehman Brothers and all of the stuff. And then what happened? The stock market happened. What the stock market has historically done for over a century happened. You play the long game, you don't play the short game, and it averages out to about an 8% annual return over time. Even with the dips. If you try to get in and get out, I have a dear friend who has been very successful and is so much smarter than I am. He says, you cannot time the market. A lot of people try to. A lot of people do it as day traders. There are a lot of really, really smart people who go, oh, you got to get out. You got to put it all in gold right now. Gold's up at 3,000 a troy ounce. Got to jump into gold right now. Maybe that works for you. Maybe you jump in. Maybe you jump out. Most people, and when I say most, I mean almost all people, are not smart enough to time the market. And so the stock market is a long-term play. And financial markets in the United States historically are cyclical. There are going to be downturns followed by upturns. And in the aggregate, you're going to win in the long term in the stock market. So, how does that pertain to this tax revenue, funding, changing the tax code in Mississippi? Because what I said before the break is, Mississippians have said to their legislators, eliminate the income tax. Eliminate the income tax. And House Republicans say, yeah, let's eliminate the income tax. And we're going to do this with the gas tax to fund roads and bridges and make sure MDOT is whole. And we're going to allocate $100 million a year that goes to PERS. And for the immediate argument that goes against $100 million doesn't begin to touch the $25 million. No, it doesn't. It doesn't touch the $25 million liability, but it's a start. And so if you say there's $100 million going toward that liability, and that's going to happen year after year after year, it's a little bit less that you have to allocate to make it whole. By the way, House Republicans are not trying to make you believe that the $100 million that they're putting into PERS is going to fix PERS. but it is an allocation toward fixing PERS. And Jason White said on this very program a couple of months ago, he's like, we will stand in for our obligation to PERS. And it's going to happen through legislative allocation of resources. Here's the thing. We're not liable for $25 million all at one time. That can be taken care of and allocated over time. So what's the point in all of this? The point is this. You got the House that wants the complete elimination of the income tax, and they want to do it over a period of 10 years. You got the Senate that wants to take it down a couple of notches, and they want to do a little bit faster in the grocery tax and all of that good stuff. Why not come to an agreement on the complete elimination of income tax over the course of a decade with a safety belt in place, with economic triggers in place that allow for the pause of the incremental reduction down to zero of the income tax over an extended period of time if the state gets into a bind financially? Why is this so difficult? Write it into the legislation. It goes down 0.25% per year over, I don't know, whatever the math is, 10 years, 12 years, 14 years, whatever it is. And if the state gets to a place where it can't afford to continue the reduction, then you press pause and you reevaluate it the next year. It's not that complicated. So get it done. Quit arguing about it and quit worrying about who gets credit for it and get it done.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. JT Mitchell joining us, SuperTalk News Team. We're going to get to JT in just a second. A couple of thoughts. I want to finish up what we were talking about. The fear that is being instilled in you about reduced federal funding is not entirely misplaced, but it is overblown. And if you hear the federal government is abolishing the Department of Education, and you go, oh gosh, what are we going to do in Mississippi if we don't have federal funds? There are two things that you need to know. One, federal money is still going to come. It's just not going to come through the Department of Education. That's number one. Number two, public schools in Mississippi rely very little on federal funds. Overwhelmingly, their money, the money for our public schools, comes from local dollars and state dollars, not federal dollars. That's number one. Number two, yes, Medicare, Medicaid is going to be more expensive. It is going to cost the state more money. If we go to a block grant funding model where the federal government is not funding all of Medicaid, is not funding all of Medicare and providing reimbursements to the state, they're going to say, you have this amount of money, now go run your program. And guess what? It's going to be more important than it has ever been for the leaders, the politicians in our state, and the leaders of those agencies to effectively manage those budgets. Revenue sources may change. That doesn't mean that all federal revenue is coming to a complete stop. All right. Thank you. Maybe that was more pent up than I realized while I was out for a week. Hey, JT, good morning.
That's what a vacation does to somebody, huh?
Well,
that's good radio. What's up, Richard?
Love it.
Hey, pal.
You have a good time off?
I did. Had a great time. Had a really, really good time. Skied a little bit. Got to be with some family and some friends, and coolest part's watching my kids ski.
No injuries, right?
No injuries.
Very good.
The second day, I thought that my calves were going to self-destruct. Like I thought they were just going to disintegrate, and I wasn't going to ever be able to walk again. But made it through. But no knees or ankles or heads or anything like that. All good.
Good stuff. Well, now you're back with me, and we're covering the news.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm kidding, JT. I'm thrilled to be back with you this morning. Let's start with what was a very sobering weekend in Mississippi and across the Southeast with the storms, the tornadoes that came across. We got the disaster declaration from the governor on Saturday night. 21 of the 82 counties doing damage assessments, loss of life, injuries. It was bad. In some ways, it could have been much worse, but in other ways, for certain areas, it was absolutely devastating.
I think that's exactly right. Yesterday, during the governor's press conference, he said that the two systems we got, one Friday, one Saturday, were, quote, eerily similar to the 2023 Rolling Fork tornadoes and then the 2020 Easter tornadoes that struck the south central portion of the state. I mean, this is one of my least favorite parts of the job, is coming on here Monday morning after what was a terrible weekend weather-wise and reporting about the people killed, reporting about the places damaged, the people who are not dead but are displaced for at least the next few months and up to years sometimes. It was a rough weekend. And like I said, a lot of what made it really rough was that it wasn't one system, but two systems.
Yeah.
And then you can sprinkle in an earthquake that we had.
It was Friday night and then, rinse and repeat on Saturday, right?
It was. And as of now, preliminary reports show we have 12 tornadoes confirmed. That number will go up. I will put my money on that number going up, considering that it's very difficult for the NWS and MEMA to pin down the exact number of tornadoes quickly because you have intersecting paths sometimes. You can't get to different roads to try to track these twisters. But that's the number right now is 12 tornadoes that both MEMA and NWS have confirmed. And the two largest ones, this was one of the facts shared yesterday during the press conference that really had my mind blown, was the largest tornado on Friday stayed on the ground for 50 miles. On Saturday, the largest tornado stayed on the ground for 70 miles. Just mass destruction.
Yeah. It was interesting to me that the governor pointed out similarities to the Rolling Fork tornadoes from, I guess that was 2023, and then the Easter tornadoes, where they were those long track storms that got on the ground and they stayed on the ground. If you want to rewind a decade or so, and you remember the super destructive tornadoes that started in Mississippi, worked their way into Alabama, and really hammered Tuscaloosa there as well. What about you mentioned this, and Jerry asked about it as well, and the governor mentioned an earthquake?
Yeah, we had an earthquake on Saturday. It was low on the scale, but it was in Simpson County in the McGee area. There have been some reports of people feeling it, but like most earthquakes, when we get them here in the Magnolia State, there's not damage, which, knock on wood, there's not damage from earthquakes. You don't see that often here. I mean, if you think back to Thanksgiving of this past year, we had an earthquake in Madison County. They happen every now and then, but no damage from this one. All of the damage came from the two separate systems of tornadoes and severe weather.
Do those emanate out of the New Madrid fault?
That is a question for somebody who gets paid more than me.
Geophysicist JT, not ready for
I took geology to get a general education requirement in college, and so that's about all my knowledge on that goes.
Yeah. Well, this just in. We have tectonic plates under our feet.
Well, I learned that part. That was in the syllabus.
And when they move, and sometimes they bump into each other, it causes some shakes.
Yeah, and really, Richard, the last thing I'll say on the severe weather is that currently with the state of emergency, MEMA is kind of the conducting agency. The state of emergency gives them the power to say, you go there, you go there. And lots of different agencies across the state, MDOT, MSDH, are responding and still responding. The linemen are out there. I know power outages have come down tremendously from a peak of around 38,000. Yeah. And it's not over, I guess. I mean, no severe weather as of now for this week. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there's still fallout. I mean, it's kind of unsettling when you walk outside the day after and it's sunny, the birds are chirping, it's beautiful, and you say, whew, it's over. But as Stephen McCraney pointed out, it's not, because floodwaters could still have an impact for up to the next 2 weeks. Yeah. You could see damage reports double, triple, quadruple, according to MEMA. So if you're in an impacted area, stay safe.
You know how we say all the time, all politics is local? Yes. You know, what affects you at the local level is the politics that really matter. Power outages are local, too.
Yes.
Right. We can have a mass power outage where 100,000 people are without power, and when 90,000 people get their power back, they move on with their lives. But the 10,000 people that don't have power still don't have power.
That's absolutely correct.
And that is very local, and that is very real. We do, as we said earlier, applaud the electrical workers and all the folks that are out trying to put things back together after the storms of the weekend.
And I lied. One last thing. A lot of people have actually been asking me about FEMA.
Hey, we try to tell the truth around here, okay?
Exactly. And so I'm telling the truth that I lied. But the last thing I'll say about the storm is a lot of people have been asking me about FEMA, because there is a federal focus right now on the current administration and FEMA. That question was raised yesterday at the press conference. And right now, the response efforts are being conducted by MEMA on the local level. However, the governor has spoken with the White House twice, he said, and FEMA should support upon request. As of now, I do not believe a request has been made.
Okay. And that tends to happen when it's needed, and you don't want to be kind of willy-nilly in those requests for federal assistance if it's not needed.
Especially with the numbers. I mean, if you start tacking on numbers throughout, from what I understand, it's harder to get all of the support you need. It's better to have all of your ducks in a row than reach out and get what you need.
In the legislature, tomorrow, I mean, today is St. Patrick's Day, but tomorrow, March 18th, is a significant day in terms of deadline in the legislature.
Yes, we have multiple appropriations and revenue deadlines this week, but tomorrow is the big one. Tuesday, March 18th, is the final day for original floor action on these kind of bills, which brings us back to a topic we've been talking about for months, which is tax reform. I heard you talking about it the segment before this.
Oh, did you?
And, you know, it's still going on. Here's a plot twist. Breaking news, an agreement has not been reached between the commercial break.
Yeah. We talked about, back in the 6 o'clock hour, some sports news. We will revisit that with JT Mitchell. A lot of good news if you are a basketball fan of Ole Miss or Mississippi State going into this week.
From the
morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, on the tax debate conversation, is it as simple as if the legislators are trying to decide whether or not they want to spend part of their vacation in Jackson?
Well, I guess Jackson will accept the economic impact of that. But you might.
Doesn't it feel to you, JT, like if they don't get tax reform done in this session, that Governor Reeves is going to call a special session?
That's what all signs are pointing to. And over the weekend, if you tracked social media, there was a little bit of a war on words between Lieutenant Governor Hoseman and House Speaker White. And according to them, it might be as simple as, how are we going to tackle PERS? I mean, Lieutenant Governor Hosemann said, I'm not eliminating income tax or cutting taxes at all if we don't handle the PERS system, the Public Employees Retirement System. Mm-hmm. And they are separate. They are on different sides when it comes to that as well. But, you talk about Governor Tate Reeves, he's doubling down. I saw he put something on Twitter about tomorrow's deadline and said that he's heard from senators who want to eliminate income tax, and it needs to get done.
Let me ask you this, though, on the PERS conversation. So House Bill 1 provides for $100 million toward PERS. We know that there's about a $25 million shortfall in the long-term funding, the sustainable funding of PERS. Jason White said, I mentioned this earlier this morning, said, a few weeks ago that they recognize that the $100 million doesn't fix the problem, but it's a start, and then through allocation of funds, they'll do what they have to do on an annual basis to make that program whole on a year-to-year basis. It's not like you got to come up with $25 billion, beg your pardon, all at once to fix PERS. It's an incremental thing, right?
According to the House Speaker, yes. I mean, it is a $25 billion liability. And he's saying that this $100
actuarial liability,
correct?
Right?
That this $100 million annually will chunk away at it. But on the other side, Lieutenant Governor Hosemann is saying that I don't want to do that. I want to create that fifth tier and create a hybrid public-private sector benefits package opposed to the current fully state-backed benefits package. And so they're separate.
Well,
Jason White's saying,
so why can't you do both? Why can't you say, for the current PERS employees, this is what we're going to do to make sure it's good, and going forward, this is what we're going to do to make sure that we don't get into this situation again? It's the exact same thing that was done with the college funding program, with Impact years ago. They had to bring it to a stop, try to grow the money, make sure that they can fund the existing liabilities, and then recalibrate the program moving forward so you don't get in the same mess all over again.
That's the question people are asking. Why not meet in the middle? On a lot of issues, why not find a compromise?
I mean, is it about what is doing best for the state of Mississippi, or is it about getting elected again?
I ask that question.
And I'm not, JT, I'm not asking you to answer that question. I'm just throwing it out there for all of you to think about as well.
And I think that is something listeners should think about, whether it be on the federal, local, state level, whatever. Are politicians doing what's in your best interest or what's in their best interest?
Yeah. Quickly, Ole Miss, 6th seed men's basketball tournament. Mississippi State playing in the 8-9 game against Baylor. Ole Miss doesn't know their opponent yet. It will either be North Carolina or San Diego State. They are in Milwaukee. Mississippi State is in Raleigh, North Carolina. On the women's side, Ole Miss, a lot of people feel like they kind of got the shaft, should have been hosting one of the 16 regionals, and said they are a 5 seed in Waco, Texas, where Baylor is the 4 seed. And Mississippi State is a 9 seed on the women's side playing Cal.
Correct.
You got that right?
You got that all right. And, hey, let's celebrate good news when we get it. This is the first time in history, at least that I know of, that the men's and women's teams at both Ole Miss and Mississippi State are heading to the NCAA tournaments. I mean, that's fantastic what really basketball looks like in this state right now. Used to it would be football, and then we wait for baseball. Now basketball. Basketball is hot. We don't need to be talking about baseball as much right now because you have 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. And then Jackson State was very close.
Oh, Alabama State clipped them at the end in the SWAC championship game.
It was a heartbreaker from a one-bid league. JSU could not get it done. I've seen a lot of people say that, it's a tough draw for so-and-so, a tough draw for so-and-so. But in my opinion, isn't it tough when you get to this part of March? If you're trying to get to the national championship, there is no easy route. But yes, go to supertalk.fm. We have the full bracket, game times, etc.
Supertalk.fm. Click on the news tab. Keep up with everything that's happening in the legislature this week. We're going to watch that deadline tomorrow for appropriations bills, money bills. American Idol got a Mississippian that's rocking along. We didn't have time for that today. Anything else you're watching out for this week?
Yeah, just a quick reminder. We are 15 days away from municipal primary elections. Absentee voting is open. You can do it this Saturday and next Saturday as well.
JT Mitchell, SuperTalk Mississippi News Director. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful week.
All right, Richard.
Thanks, Lance.
Oh, man. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Thanks to all of you. It is wonderful to be back. We'll do it again tomorrow morning just after 6 o'clock. For Lance, I'm Richard. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Did you know Toyota of Brookhaven has sold more new vehicles the last 2 years than any other dealership in Southwest Mississippi? Come see why. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at ToyotaBrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota of Brookhaven, we deliver.